Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Manchester United getting their late game winner over Fulham to win the first game of the Premier League season. We'll talk about Pochettino, what makes that a special hire for the US men's national team. We'll talk about Barcelona opening up their La Liga campaign. Can they open up their La Liga campaign with 3 points? And we'll do a full La Liga weekend one preview. We know some games have already occurred. We'll discuss full Premier League week one preview all the games this weekend in the Premiership. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my some of my thoughts on the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off though, if you've got a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show great, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just to click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We really rely on your support to keep bringing you in the sports content that we love, that you love, and we appreciate every bit of the support that y'all give us. So please go ahead, let us know what you're thinking, hit that super chat button. Let's keep this show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to gsmcpodcast.net to tip, donate, to leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. So we gotta start off though. Joshua Zirkzee gets the late game winning goal to glide Manchester United past Fulham in an anticlimactic sort of game. There was that big moment, that late game winner. But apart from that, not the most entertaining of games, not the best show for Premier League football. You want to start off the season with a banger. Not the best caviar for Premier League football, but overall a solid game, solid teams going at each other in Manchester United, Fulham, two teams that I expect to have reasonable expectation this season. Obviously, United a little bit higher. We saw a little bit of lacklusterness from Manchester United when it comes to some of the players that started the game, specifically Rashford and Mount. Again, just wasn't at the levels that is expected of a United player. Bruno Fernandes, he was struggling too as well. Diallo, I'm very pleased that he was able to get the start, because I think he is rightfully rewarded for what he's done in preseason. I think it's justified. His starting position, and it was good that he was able to get it. He did end up getting subbed off because it wasn't his greatest performance, but hopefully this is a sign of things to come in terms of Ahmad getting that trust from Erik ten Hag. And we know Zirkzee, he hasn't played much at United, or he hasn't played at all really, so it was it was great to see him get his appearance get on with about 20 minutes ago, and immediately made an impact, because yes, he is a forward, and that's what he's brought in for. And keep in mind, this is a player that I don't expect high amount of goals from, and the fact that he hasn't been a goal scorer yet. In Bologna, he didn't even reach double-digit goals. That's not what he is at this point in his career. But to come on in your first 20 minutes and not only get a goal, and not only be able to get on the end of the goal and get a goal, but also be involved in the build-up. Before the goal is not just a really good finish. originally in the attack. He's the one that gets the attack going, dropping into midfield. And we saw Erik ten Hag talk about it after the game, speaking about how Xerxes, it's his full profile that made us want to get him. The fact that he not only is he a threat in the box, but he can also drop down and join in play and be a sort of connector, and that's what he was able to do. He dropped down and he was able to play, and he was able to allow it to free flow. He was able to spring the ball out wide, and eventually he was able to get back on the end of the cross for that brilliant finish. So look, Xerxes, I have to say, phenomenal. I thought Mazraoui, who came in, who started at that right back position, I thought he was very, very solid. I thought he put a few decent tackles in. I thought for his first game, a few training sessions, getting up to speed, I thought he was really, really good. And yeah, I was surprised that it was Mazraoui that ended up getting the start. I thought Delict was the one. If there was any of the two signings that could get the start in right away, it was going to be Delict, but it ended up being Mazraoui. We know what Mazraoui is. We've seen him now at Bayern, at Ajax. He's a good player in possession. In terms of defending, he's a solid fullback, but he gives you enough in the right-hand side in terms of his attack nature to not be no threat. That's the way Wan-Bissaka was. And yeah, he was able. Dalot played the left back position, which is going to be a hole for United this season with Luke Shaw and his injury ways. I thought Garnacho came on and it was lively as always. He was involved in the second goal. That Garnacho was solid. Overall, again, Rashford, Mount, not good enough. Bruno today wasn't good enough as well. These sort of players, Erik ten Hag needs to realize, especially with Rashford and Mount, he needs to realize what it is and what it's not. Rashford and Mount, over the past, year or so now, have really been almost dead weight for United, and they've continuously been in that starting positions as long as they're healthy. And it's time that they need a serious kick buck the bad side, because it's not been good enough. Mason Mount's been awful since he's been at Manchester United. Yes, he's had injury concerns, but he's spent enough time on the pitch, and on his time on the pitch, he's been awful. Marcus Rashford has been awful so far for the last year and a half or so. He's been awful, but he's still picked game in and game out, and he survives 90 minutes game in and game out. It's, eventually, you need to go with the guys that are giving you form, and that are have the on decent form. And right now, just based on preseason and everything in general like that, it's Garnacho and Diallo. I mean, even Anthony, who didn't play in this game at all, who wasn't involved in this game at all, was on the bench the whole time. Could he have given you any less than what? I know naturally they're not in the same place, but would he give you any less than what Rashford gave you? Again, Erik ten Hag, yes, you want to continue to build up the confidence of Rashford and get back to it. But at the end of the day, if there's no signs, there is no signs. As far as Fulham, I think they did, I thought Adama in the first half going up against Lisandro and Dalot, who it was weird, they were kind of interchanging, but I thought Adamo had a very decent game in that first half. He was getting at them. He was, especially Alessandro, but they were able to tidy it up. I thought Fulham really, they had their opportunities in that second half in transition. They had multiple 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s that they should have made Manchester United pay. I mean, it was simple final balls. I mean, some of the final balls in those moments, in those transition moments, were horrible. The Andres Pereira one, going 2-on-1, that's an easy ball to play in Munoz. Harry Maguire, yes, he's in a position where, he's in a good defensive position, but Harry Maguire, it wasn't really great defending. All he needed to do was put a foot out. That ball was horrible. That was a low-class ball. And this is Andres Pereira, who was one of the mainstays on this Brazil national team for this summer's Copa America. Maybe shows the level that Brazil is at right now. I mean, that ball was horrible. And some of United's ball placement, some of Fulham's final balls in those 2-on-1, 3-on-1 transition moments in that second half that they really could have made United pay were absolutely horrible. Horrible. Um, so, look, yes, United had for Fulham, it's their own mistakes. They cost themselves the game, and they got nobody to blame but themselves. That was lackluster in terms of their ability to play in transition. And Marco Silva, I know he was watching those transition moments, completely frustrated, because how could you be? You're having 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, and you're not even getting an attempt on goal. Are you kidding me? This is flat out not good enough. Going back to Manchester United again, poor performance. It wasn't great. It wasn't pretty. The performance wasn't good, but they got the result. And when you're early in the Premier League season, in the sort of first game, in the early stage games, the result is important. The result is important, and the 3 points is important. But at the same time, results are temporary. No, okay, results are not temporary. 3 points will last forever. But the results don't tell the full story. Performance, that's really what's going to tell us the long term how good this team is. And right now, what we've seen from week 1, it needs to improve. That performance was not good enough. But 3 points winning this game is a way to ease into it. Because look, if they lost this game or if they drawn this game, the criticism would have been unbelievable. Unbelievable criticism would have been hard for them to take. And the players would have really got at it. Some heavy criticism. So it's good. And it's a good way. The biggest thing is Xerxes getting his first goal. Xerxes building up some confidence. Because I'll tell you what, this early stretch of the season, Xerxes can be a very important piece for Manchester United. When you look at the fact that Rasmus Højlund, he's not going to be involved for a few weeks now with that hamstring issue. So they don't have anybody that's naturally comfortable playing through the middle. And Xerxes can come in and do that. And I think it won't be long till Xerxes comes in and gets a start. I think United will also improve by bringing in De Ligt. They could be more comfortable playing out of the back when they get De Ligt into. De Ligt, Lisandro, Andre Onana. All 3 players very comfortable on the ball, very technically gifted in terms of playing out. So I think that will make United a little bit more dangerous. But again, the way that they looked in transition in that second half, leaving the space open for 2-on-1 and 3-on-1s, that's something they do need to tidy up, because you can't do that. Overall, though, in terms of Onana, he was decent. Didn't have much to do. Needed to make a save to sign Kenny Tate in the early on, but apart from that, not much. Mazraoui, I thought he was pretty good in his first game. Had a few good last-ditch efforts from Adama Traore across. Had a few decent tackles. He was decent. Maguire, he was good in the air. He did well. Neutralizing him, and Lisandro did well. Neutralizing Rodrigo Muniz, I thought it was pretty good. Lisandro, I talked about it earlier in the first half, losing his battles to Traore. But overall, played a decent game. A few sloppy passes here and there, but overall he was decent. Dalot to play left back, I thought he was pretty good in the fact that that's not his natural position, and you can't expect much going from him forward because it's on his weaker foot. So I thought Dalot was pretty good. I talked about Mount, I talked about Rashford, talked about Bruno, talked about Ahmad, Menu, decent. Not his best performance, but he was decent. Casemiro defensively showed a little bit of vulnerability, but he also created some 2 great opportunities earlier in the first half for Bruno, so I thought he was pretty good. So, and then Xerxes getting the winning goal, Garnacho being pretty good. Look, I think United have something to build on. I think Ten Hag has something to build on, and again, for Ten Hag, the 3 points is important because, well, when the results go the other way or going the wrong way is when the criticism is really, really mounting. Right now, Ten Hag, I think he's just trying to build himself some sort of safety net as this season begins. So they move on. Manchester United will move on to take on, let's check it out. Manchester United will move on to take on Brighton next Saturday before the big game, the big derby, September 1st, when they take on Liverpool. In the 3rd game of the season, so it's good that they're able to get 3 points right now. Fulham, they take on Fulham take on Leicester City next weekend before they have a midweek clash in the EFL Cup, the Carabao Cup. So yeah, they'll be taking on newly promoted Leicester City in their home opening game of the season. So we look forward to that. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll discuss what makes Mauricio Pochettino a special hire for the U.S. men's national team.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a...
Before the break, we talked about Manchester United getting the late winner in their opening day victory over Fulham. We're going to move on to talk about Mauricio Pochettino. We continue to talk about Mauricio Pochettino. So it's still not official, guys. He's still not officially pen to paper the U.S. men's national team manager. He's already agreed. The only thing is there's talks probably going on currently regarding Pochettino and the Chelsea job. You need to negotiate the contract situation. The fact that Pochettino left mid-contract, so they need to, they just need to, correct out some few sort of issues. Nothing major, but it'll be official very, very soon. There'll be a pen to paper. He has agreed to take on the U.S. men's national team role. And it's a special hire for the U.S. men's national team. But before I continue on, I'm going to ask this question. I'll ask this question in the comments. So with the U.S. men's national team hiring Mauricio Pochettino as their next coach, do you think they clean out their new system and bring in coaches that run the same system? Definitely. I don't think they're going to keep the same in terms of, I know Pochettino, he's not a manager to be a yes man to be played with. If he was, he'd be the current manager at Chelsea right now. I think Pochettino is going to have his squad, his, team, his backroom staff, his assistant coaches, the assistant coaches around him that what's it called? That he believes can help him get the best out of this team. I don't think they're going to keep, I think there'll be one or a few, because there's always that are like on the team, assistants like a Duncan Ferguson at Everton who's always there no matter what. There'll be a few of those from the U.S. soccer system, but most of the backroom staff will be Pochettino's assistant coaches. If that's what you mean in running the same system, I think and also, Greg Berhalter, it's known that he has had an influence on the youth teams, on the Olympic teams. It's not, this is not something, this is public records. It's known. He's had influence in terms of the Olympic team that took on in Paris, despite he was fired right before the Olympic Games, but in the build-up, he had a lot to do with the squad and things like that. Of course, I think Pochettino is going to have a lot to do. I think his system is going to be the system that's going to be played throughout the youth ranks. Generally, they want to they want the youth players to get ready to the system that the national team manager is running. I think what Pochettino is going to do with the senior team is going to definitely trickle down to the youth team. It has to trickle down to the youth team because that's just the way how national teams work. That's how the U.S. men's national team is. Under Greg Berhalter had a huge influence on the Olympic game team, the Olympic roster. So the youth men's national team, because I think that's what hurts the U.S. with these to coach the U.S. I agree, but I don't. I agree with what you say. It's important, but I don't agree with the fact that you say the coaches in the U.S. are not running the same system as the senior team coach. In terms of the youth teams, they generally try to play a similar style of play. Except the problem with Bruce Berhalter is his style of play hasn't been consistent with the senior team. He had this sort of style of play that he sold to us when he became the manager at first, but it started shifting, it started adapting into completely different things. And when you do that, and when you don't have a set sort of style of play yourself, it's hard to, you know, implement that in the youth team. I think they were trying to run the same system from the men's national team to the youth federations, but it's kind of impossible to do that when Greg Berhalter doesn't even have a set system that he's running game in, game out. We never watched the U.S. men's national team under Greg Berhalter and see a pattern of play, a set style of pattern of play, game in, game out. We saw little things like it was very important for him from building out. But in terms of the style of play, there was no pattern, game in, game out, that we thought was the Greg Berhalter way. There was some days that we were a little bit more pragmatic. There was other days where we were taking out on the front foot. It was weird. I didn't understand exactly I understood what Greg Berhalter was telling us, but I didn't understand exactly what was the style that Greg Berhalter wanted to implement with his players. But going back to this, what makes Pochettino a special hire for the USMNT? Number one, they haven't had a manager of this sort of quality ever. This is a manager that they can only dream of. This is a brilliant tactician, that's proven to make players better than the sum of their parts. When you see the work that he's done at Espanyol and the work he's done at Southampton, this is a manager that's made players play better than what they've done. And that's what the U.S. men's national team needs, because they're going to be up against it. They're going to be playing against teams in the World Cup that has more talent than them. That's the day and age that we are in world football. The U.S. men's national team right now are not, this is not basketball. We don't have the best guys. Not even particularly close. Our players are improving and they're a lot better than what they were before in terms of skill and talent, but they're still not at the top national teams, and we'll be up against it. And what you need in those sort of situations is a top class, brilliant manager that has brilliant tactics that can help you out in these sort of situations. I saw rumors, people talking about when Southgate left, is Southgate a good option for the U.S. men's national team? What? No, that would have been horrible. Southgate is a yes man that build a good relationship with the media and all that, but he's not a manager that can get his team playing better than the sum of the parts. He's not a tactician that can brilliantly out-coach another coach and set a system that can get the team playing better than what they are. No. Mauricio Pochettino he's a very, very good tactical genius. He has a set style of play that he's gonna want to implement. He's gonna be stubborn about it too. I know as a Chelsea fan, he's gonna be stubborn about it. He's not gonna want to change his ways. But I think that's what U.S. right now needs. I think the U.S. needs someone, a no BS coach, because there's been a lot of BS that the U.S. men's national team has gotten away with the past few years or so. So I think someone that can come and implement his system, get rid of the players that can't play that, the style that he wants. I'm not saying get rid. This is not national team, but he won't play the players, and you play the players at the right positions. He'll find the players and put them at the positions that they'll be most dangerous. How many times did we watch the U.S. men's national team play and say, why is Gio Reyna on the left-hand side? Why is this guy here? Why is this guy there? Why aren't you bringing on this guy? Why aren't you? There's not going to be those big-time questions that we have of Greg Berhalter. There's not going to be that for Pochettino. Obviously, there will be criticism, because there's always going to be criticism when you're the manager of a national team. Always. No matter what country you're managing, there will be criticism. But overall, I think this is a great, tremendous hire. I'm going to continue to read some of these comments from Anthony. I read the first two. So the youth men's national team, because I think that's what I heard. Because honestly, they're also hard. Also, another thing that hurts these young kids that are coming from Europe, because the systems are running MLS or in the United States? Okay, because I don't understand exactly, because honestly, also another thing that hurts these young kids that are coming from Europe, because the systems are running MLS or in the United States. I don't understand exactly what you're trying to say. Make that part clear to me. I don't understand that part. But let's continue. The issue with Berhalter is he's very strict with his tactics. He does not want to deviate from it. And what I mean is not a very flexible when it comes to a flexible guy when it comes to tactics. Look, I didn't think we have any sort of tactics that we had game in, game out. There were certain things that he was very stubborn about, especially playing out of the back in terms of a team that didn't have sort of the quality to play out of the back, especially with Matt Turner in goal and Zimmerman at center half. I'll give you that part too. With Mauricio, is there anybody on the roster now at striker or forward or in our system that plays the same position that fits when Mauricio Pochettino looks in that position good on both sides of the pitch? On both sides of the pitch, I don't think... Mauricio, is there anybody on the roster now at striker forward or in our system that plays the same position that fits when Mauricio looks in that position good? I mean, I think in terms of what we have currently on the roster, I think Pochettino, the striker he's gonna fancy the most is Balogun, because Balogun is technically the most gifted. He's also physically the most gifted in terms of height, strength, and he's the best in terms of playing in tight spaces. I don't think you're gonna see what we let's look at what Pochettino has had in past strikers. He had Harry Kane, who's a brilliant finisher, but also can drop down and be a part of play. The U.S. right now, they don't have a striker like that, I mean, Sargent, yes, to an extent, he can be part of build and play, but again, he doesn't give you the goals that a guy like, some of the other strikers in this roster can do. Haji Wright, again, he scores a lot of goals in the championship, but is he at that sort of level? I don't know. I will say though, Pochettino, he can't expect, the greatest of players. Keep in mind, this is the U.S. men's national team, and I think he understands what he's going to be getting. And yes, I also agree with you that I don't think fans need to worry about the United rumors at all, because not because he can coach both the national team and the club team, not because of that. I completely disagree with that part of it. But the one thing is, I think genuinely, if he really wanted that Manchester United job, he wouldn't have taken the U.S. men's national team job. I think Pochettino is a manager with high class and high integrity, and I think he's looking at the U.S. men's national team as a project entering the 2026 World Cup. So I don't think we should be worried about United rumors, but not because of what you said. There's no way he'll be managing both club and the national team. Short break here coming up, though. When we come back, we'll talk about La Liga Week 1. We'll preview those weekend games.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we talked about what makes Mauricio Pochettino a special hire for the U.S. men's national team. We move on to talk about some of the games in La Liga this weekend. There's a lot of games that are set to happen this weekend. First of all, we had 4 games that happened so far. Athletic Club took on Getafe. Athletic Club took on Getafe, finished in a 1-1 draw. Real Betis took on Girona, 1-1 draw. Celta Vigo beat Alves 2-1, and then Sevilla and Las Palmas finished in a 2-2 draw. It's weird how La Liga opens up their campaign with 2-2, with 2 games on Thursday, 2 games on Friday. It's strange, but we have this whole weekend set of games to preview. So let's start off. I'm going to start off with some of the bigger ones. Let's look real quick. Let me pull up all the games on my iPad real quick. Barcelona taking on Valencia. Look, Barcelona is going to open up their campaign. It's announced that Dani Olmo will not be involved in Week 1's game. He's going to miss it because of registration issues. It's really just shocking how Barcelona have handled their financial issues over the past few weeks, and how much lies that there's been. I remember I saw a report a few days ago that Dani Olmo will be available for the first game, and it won't be an issue registering him for Week 1. The amount of times that they've had to, players have to miss games because of registration issues early on in the season, the amount of financial problems that they've had, it's just sad. But that he's not going to be involved. Hansi Flick, when he talked about it, he said he's not fit enough to be involved. But I saw another report saying, he's not, he can't get registered. But what Hansi Flick said, at the moment, Dani is not in the right fitness for the game against Valencia. He is not an option. He started very late to the preseason preparation, and now we take care of him. For us, it's important that all the players playing have no injuries. That's the most important thing. Dani Olmo, he will not be involved in that opening game as they take on Valencia. Big game going up for early in the season. Barcelona, Valencia, 2 teams with high hopes, 2 teams with good history, especially in terms of their history, in Spanish football. We know what Barcelona is, but Valencia as well. The Barcelona, they're not going to have Dani Olmo, but that's not going to be no excuse for them. They're going to be expected to start off this campaign with three points. This is their first game that they'll be playing. Without Xavi as their manager over the past few years now. It's going to be Hansi Flick who gets his first crack at Barcelona. Expect to see a little bit more dynamic Barcelona, a little bit more of a direct Barcelona that will be looking very, very threatening. And I love to see this game. I think it's going to be a big test for Barcelona. I think they're going to have to go on the road as well. They'll be playing this game at the Mestalla. I always have problems saying that name, saying that stadium. In a very hostile atmosphere, Barcelona has had some struggles in historically playing at the Mestalla. It's a very hostile environment for Barcelona, so it's gonna be a fantastic game. I'm interested to see how much more direct is Barcelona than years in the past, because we'll get to see early on. I don't really rely too much on preseason. I think you're trying not to give things away when it comes to tactics. I want to see how direct the likes of Rafael Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, if he plays. I know there's issues with his father and all that. Of Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, how direct, how vertical they are, how Robert Lewandowski, what his sort of form is going to be like at this time. The thing with this, the question we can't ask with this game with Dani Olmo not being available is how do they fit him in when you already have the likes of Gundogan, Pedri, Frenkie de Jong? How do you fit in Dani Olmo into that team? Do you play him in one of the front three attacking positions? Or do you clog that midfield? Or do you end up benching one of those players? It's going to be very, very interesting. A lot of conversation that Barcelona is going to have. And it's just going to be an interesting transition for Barcelona. So I'm here for it. We'll continue. Real Madrid, they open up their La Liga defense against Mallorca. Keep in mind, this is the Real Madrid that just came off winning the Supercopa, defeating Atalanta in Mbappe's first game, scoring that goal. Mallorca... I'm not an expert on Mallorca. They finished 15th place in La Liga last year with 40 points. Not the biggest of test for Real Madrid in this week one game. Real Madrid, they're expected to start off their title defense with a fast start here. They get to play this game. They actually have to go to Estadio Mallorca. So that will make it a little bit more difficult. But I'm expecting the big players like Mbappe, like Bellingham, like Rodrigo, Vinicius to come up big for Real Madrid and start the season smoothly for them. Atletico Madrid, they take on Villarreal, and Villarreal I have is as a dark horse to potentially get into the Champions League. I like what Villarreal has done in this summer. Right now, they're going to be led by Alex Baena, who had a brilliant Olympic Games for Spain. Really, really quality player in my opinion. He's coming into his own. And Villarreal, they're a threatening team. Being coached by Marcelino. He's been there now for this is going to be his second season. So, it's going to be interesting. Villarreal this season, they take on Atletico Madrid. Hopefully we get to see Julian Alvarez in this opening game. He's been involved in terms of training, obviously, and the fact that he's already signed. He's already signed, unlike Conor Gallagher, who went to Madrid and couldn't get the thing completed over the line because of the Omar Dion deal falling off, and now he's being sent back to Chelsea. Julian Alvarez, it was done right away. Contract signed. He's been trading. Will they start him right away? We don't know. We saw the Mazraoui. He was able to start right away. And today, Xerxes, he came on to score a goal. Will Atletico Madrid be able to put Julian Alvarez on the pitch right away? I don't know. Maybe we see him coming off the bench. But I definitely think he's going to have some sort of impact in this game as either a starter or a substitute. So, to answer your question, are you going to have to wait a little bit longer? No, I think you will see Julian Alvarez play tomorrow, whenever the game is. I believe the game is set to be played. When is the game? On Monday? Yeah, I think Julian Alvarez will definitely be involved, and you'll get to see him. A brilliant player, by the way. Let's continue on with the rest of the games in La Liga. We'll just go quickly through them. Osasuna take on Leganés. Real Sociedad take on Rayo Vallecano. Valladolid take on Espanyol. A packed day of La Liga matches. So we all look forward to those. And I like how they put 2 games on each day. That's actually pretty cool. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll do full Premier League Week 1 preview.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we talked about Barcelona opening up their La Liga campaign with 3 points. Can they open up their La Liga campaign with 3 points? And we did a full preview of the La Liga Week 1. Move on to do a full Premier League Week 1 preview. Obviously, we're all excited for the Premier League. We got a little glimpse of that today with United taking on Fulham. But now, we get the big array of games. And we start off with Ipswich Town getting to play their first Premier League game in 21 years, taking on a team like Liverpool, who, that's a good test for them, opening up their season, opening up their Premier League campaign, getting to play a team like Liverpool. That's going to be fantastic. The game will be at Portman Road, which will add that it's going to be an electric atmosphere. It'll be a 12:30 kickoff, which is not great, but it'll be an electric atmosphere. Arne Slot, we get a first look at Arne Slot. There's some public optimism regarding Barcelona. Regarding Liverpool in terms of their chances to potentially even compete in a title race and definitely make top 4. For me, a successful season for Liverpool would be top 4. And the fact that it's going to be a transitioning from a manager as brilliant as Jurgen Klopp to a manager like Arne Slot, it'll be interesting. I'm also interested to see what front 3 does he go with. There's a lot of players that Liverpool could play. When you look at Luis Diaz, Diego Jota, Darwin Nunez, Mohamed Salah, there's some brilliant players to choose from. In that front 3, you got 5-6 players that threaten to get a starting position. Who does he roll out with in the first opening day? Who is his mainstay? Who are the players that he trusts? Who are the players that he trusts to get him the results in the early games? And Liverpool, they need to build some sort of momentum in this game and the next game, because you know who they take on their third game of the season? They got that rivalry. They got the biggest rivalry probably in the Premier League. Not the biggest rivalry in the Premier League. I think even Liverpool-Everton is probably a bigger rivalry when it comes to mutual hate. But one of the biggest rivalries in the Premier League, Manchester United taking on Liverpool. So a big game coming up for Liverpool in Ipswich Town, in these sort of, when you're a team that's going to be potentially battling for relegation, trying to stay up, to stay in the league, you want to take care of your home games. You want to get 3 points as much in your home games. And if you're going up against the better oppositions, you want to aim for at least a point. And here I think if they can get the point to start off their campaign, brilliant for them. Arsenal take on Wolves. This is their first day in terms of first game for Arsenal in terms of the next battle, the next fight to stay in the to win the Premier League title. They're trying to fight off this beast in Manchester City, and they take on Wolves. These games early on in the season, they can come back to bite you. Every game is crucial, in the Premier League, in the title race, when you're competing with a team like Manchester City. We remember last year early on, Arsenal had a few nicks here and there that ended up biting them right at the end. So it's important for Arsenal to take care of these games. They'll be playing Wolves at home. We're going to get the first look at Calafiori in the Premier League. So important for them. We're going to see high-flying football. We're going to see a great atmosphere from Emirates. We're going to see great sort of style of play. Arsenal really going to be going at it, really going to be showing their ability, really going to be showing their creativity. So I'm excited for that game. Of course, Everton take on Brighton. And this is a team, Brighton had a little bit of a disappointing season last season. And Roberto Di Zerbi, he is gone, and now Brighton are going to be managed by Fabian Hurzeller, who, is a little bit unknown actually, Fabian Hurzeller. Very, very unknown. manager. He's 31 years old. 31 years old. And he's going to be the manager. He was the manager at FC St. Pauli in the second Bundesliga. So not real much experience there in terms of at top flight, actually no experience in terms of top flight football. Fun fact, he was actually born in the US. He was born in Houston, Texas. Yeah, he's the youngest head coach, the permanent head coach in Premier League history. I really don't know much about him, so I'm interested to see what he implements at Brighton, and they'll be taking on an Everton team that I think was a little bit better than years past. The team in Everton this season, I think that they'll finally be able to get out of the relegation race. I liked what they've done in this summer in terms of the transfer window. This is going to be their final season at Goodison. They open up their season at Goodison Park, last opening day game at Goodison ever. So yeah, we'll see. That's going to be a good game. Newcastle take on Southampton. Newly promoted Southampton. Southampton could be battling to stay up this season. First look at them at the Premier League this season. Newcastle, last year, disappointing season. But they had to, they suffered a lot of injuries and they had Champions League football to worry about. Now it's a little bit different this season. I think Eddie Howe wants to get back to the magic that he had early not last year but the year before. Manager that can really get his players playing better than the sum of their parts. They played this game at St. James Park. I expect an electric atmosphere, high-flying atmosphere, hungry atmosphere, and I think Newcastle, because of that atmosphere we saw last year, despite that they got outplayed by Aston Villa at times, the opening day atmosphere took them home. I think it'll be the same in this game. I think they will trounce Southampton. Nottingham Forest take on Bournemouth. I think this is the year that Nottingham Forest might just might just go down. They've been surviving. They've looked uninspiring under Nuno Espirito Santos. Bournemouth had a really successful season last season, but have lost Dominic Solanke. We'll see how they're able to transition past not having Dominic Solanke. Aston Villa, they open up their campaign in their first season after reaching the top four with Unai Emery. They take on West Ham, a new look West Ham that'll be managed by Julian Lopetegui after David Moyes was sacked. So I'm gonna be very interested to see how Julian Lopetegui he opens up his campaign as West Ham manager. And then Aston Villa, they're going on the road to West Ham. They're gonna be the favorite. They're gonna be expected to win this game just because of the nature of Aston Villa. How good they've been, but they have a little bit of difficulty they need to transition back. They lost Douglas Luiz, which is a very big player for them. So yeah, we'll get to see. I think this was a very tight game, one of the tighter games this weekend. Brentford take on Crystal Palace. Brentford, they might find themselves a little bit in a relegation battle this season. I think Crystal Palace, they're going to be floating in that mid-table sort of position as they always are. That's going to be a decent game. I'll hold this one for the last week. It's the best game of the weekend. But should be the best game of the weekend. Leicester City taking on Tottenham. Tottenham, they want to open up their season very, very good. They're trying to make that push into the top four under Ange Postecoglou. They're going to be without Vis Bissouma, but I don't think that's going to be the biggest loss in terms of 1 week. So don't think that'll affect it that much. Leicester City, they're opening up their campaign now with a new manager in Steve Cooper, who's going to be a little bit more pragmatic as opposed to Enzo Maresca. A little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more, safe. And I think that might be the better option for them in terms of being able to stay up in this sort of race. I think Leicester City, they do have the belief in terms of they belong in the Premier League, which I think will be a factor in terms of staying up compared to a team like Ipswich Town that hasn't really been in this sort of moments for a while. That'll be fantastic to watch. First Premier League game in King's Power Stadium in over a year. So I expect a great atmosphere there. And then Chelsea take on Manchester City. Will be game played at Stamford Bridge. Obviously Manchester City are massive favorites just because of the horrible form Chelsea are coming in from. And Chelsea, they've given up a lot of poor goals in terms of trying to play out and trying to adapt to Enzo Maresca's system. I don't think Enzo Maresca is going to suddenly play a different system opening day just because he's playing Manchester City. I think he's going to continue, and if they suffer a 4-5-6-0 defeat, we're going to suffer a 4-5-6-0 defeat. And I think something bad is coming to Chelsea for this opening day weekend. That's just the truth. But yes, that's our full Premier League Week 1 preview. We'll take a short break here. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. Before the break, we did a full Premier League Week 1 preview. We move on to talk about some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. Landon Donovan, he has been named San Diego Wave interim coach of the NWSL club. Announced that he's gonna be the interim coach now for the San Diego Wave. That was just announced shortly here. PSG, they got an opening day victory over Le Havre. If I said it right. I literally read that and tried to make it sound as French as possible. Le Havre. I'm pretty sure that's nowhere near how it's supposed to be pronounced. But they got the 4-1 win over them. Lee King-in was able to get a goal in. Gautier Lloris equalized in the 48th minute, and then it's a sprinkling of goals late. Ousmane Dembele gets the late go-ahead goal, then Barcola gets the third in the 80s. Dembele gets the goal in the 84th, Barcola gets the goal in the 86th, and then a penalty in the 90th minute. Yes, it finished 4-1, but that's just deceiving. It was 1-1 for 84 minutes or so. The last 3 goals was a sprinkle there. PSG had 15 shots. Le Havre had 5. 10 shots on target for PSG. Le Havre had 2 shots on target. PSG dominated possession, 77% possession. I was looking at the starting 11. I didn't watch the game, so I'll just come out clean. I didn't watch the game. That's why I left it to one of the top headlines, because I can't speak about it so thoroughly. But you're looking, you're seeing that the back line. You're seeing some of the players that are playing in this game. You're like, wow. Is PSG trying to ease their way into the season? Beraldo, Pachos, the 2 center halves, Zaghi is the left back, Mbai is their left winger, and you're just like, huh? Yeah, and then you see the bench. They have João Neves, Barcola, Colomwani, Dembele, Marquinhos, Carlos Soler, Skriniar. I don't know what's going on with PSG and Luis Enrique. They, once Mbappe left, they kind of became irrelevant almost. Nobody talks about them anymore so far. But yeah, we'll see. It's a good thing that they're going under the radar, honestly. I think they have potential to come into the Champions League and just come out of nowhere and kind of be a bang. So, salute to PSG, and hopefully they can continue getting good results in League One, and they can be a threat in the Champions League. Juve remains a possibility again for Weston McKennie. Weston McKennie can stay at Juventus yet again, kind of like what happened exactly last year. Them trying to push themselves out, can't really get him out. Now they let him back in just so he can come in and probably be the best midfielder at the club. He was looking to leave Juventus this season after he was been told by Thiago Motta he's not going to be involved with the team, and he was left out of the Juventus squad for their final preseason matches. And it looked very likely that McKennie would leave Juventus when Fiorentina wanted him. But after talks with Thiago Motta this week, McKennie, he's going to be back in the mix, and he's potentially going to be in the matchday squad for Juventus's Monday's match against Como in Serie A. Como playing, their campaign now being managed by Cesc Fabregas. So that's strange, but again, that's nothing that I expect. That's just Juventus is weird, man. Guardiola, he hints at a potential return at Manchester City for João Cancelo. João Cancelo, he was gone in a shocking manner in this past January in 2023, and he joined Bayern Munich on loan. There was some issues in terms of him and Guardiola. We know the spat and all that. Barcelona, they want to now, and then now he was later on loaned to Barcelona. Now he's went back to Manchester City. And Barcelona, they want to re-sign Cancelo on loan, but it's not going through. Has not went through. Has not materialized. Now Cancelo has been back at a City, and he's training. Guardiola told in a news conference. He said he's training with us. We will see, maybe stay, maybe go on loan. I don't know yet. He's training with us, behaving really well in the training session. He loves to play football. We will see. And then when he was asked if he could play for Manchester City again, he said it can happen, yeah. So that's interesting there. When speaking about their relationship, he said, in training we say hello and talk about what's going to happen. It depends on his agents and the club. In the end, if he has to stay, we will treat him like all the other players, like we have done since I have been here, with respect and try to take the best for huge qualities that he has. I never doubt his qualities for 1 second, but I don't know what is going to happen. So yeah, we'll see if João Cancelo gets that move that he wants, that he desires, or that he's gonna be in, or that he, if he doesn't, whether or not he can get involved in Manchester City's setup right now. That's gonna be very, very interesting. I'm gonna just respond to your comment real quick. I believe Poch will make US a better team. I think he'll make them infinitely better, especially compared to the crap that we had under Greg Berhalter. Yeah, of course, I agree with that. Enzo Maresca, speaking about Chelsea, on press conference, said Chelsea are still aiming to sign more players. He said, in this moment, the club knows exactly what I think in terms of what we need in case we do something, and hopefully before we finish the transfer window, we can bring in some players. This is, by the way, a team that's brought in 10 players. 10 players, and they have a squad of 43 players, and they brought in 10 players this summer. And yes, a lot of them were youth players that are not expensive, but they signed Pedro Neto for 54 million euros. They signed Dewsbury Hall for around 35 million euros. They signed Philip Jorgensen for around 25 million euros. There's some players that they signed for a lot of money, and you just wonder, where are they getting the money from? How are they making these continuous investments? Interesting, weird. Xherdan Shaqiri, we talked earlier, he left Chicago Fire. Well, guess what? Now he has rejoined the club where it all started for him, at Basel. Basel announced this on a tweet, on a statement saying, "Welcome home, Shaq." Shaqiri talking about this said, "It fills me with pride, and I am very happy that I can return to my hometown of FCB today. I've had a deep connection with the club and the region since I was a child. As a fan and of course as a player, I completed my football training in Basel and was then able to launch my international career. Now I want to attack again with FCB, and I can hardly wait to see our fans again." He's gonna be back playing at the highest of levels in terms of Swiss football, and it's good to see him back in Europe. It's good to see him back in Europe. I'm trying to figure out right now, is Basel? Yeah, they are in the Champions League. So it's also a great thing for us because we get to see Shezdaran Shaqiri back in the Champions League. Oh no, they're not playing in the Champions League actually. So never mind. I don't know what they finished in the Swiss League last year. I know generally they're always at the top, so surprising there. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool.